October 24th, 1929. On this long-awaited day, over 14,000 people gathered at the State Fairgrounds in Columbia to watch the Clemson Tigers and the Carolina Gamecocks battle for the win on the football field. But while Clemson fans cheered as their team broke the tie and won the game, the lives of millions of Americans were about to change. What was known as Big Thursday for these football fans soon became known as Black Thursday to the rest of the country. In the summer leading up to this day, people began to spend less and goods began to pile up, slowing production rates. However, stock prices only continued to rise beyond their true value. By September, people began to realize that consumer spending could not match the high stock prices, and these prices slowly began to drop. On Black Thursday, panic set in and a record 12.9 million shares were traded. Investment companies and bankers tried to help the market by purchasing more stock, but by the following Tuesday, stock prices had completely collapsed. On what was soon titled Black Tuesday, over 16 million shares were traded. Billions of dollars were gone, and people lost everything they had. These events marked the start of the Great Depression. A dangerous cycle began in America. People were unable to purchase goods and products as they had in the past, leading factories and businesses to slow production and fire many of their workers. Those who had purchased items on credit ended up in debt and could not pay what they owed to banks or businesses. By 1933, nearly 15 million people were unemployed, and almost half of the country's banks had failed. People lost their possessions and their homes, and with no money to put in the economy, the future seemed dim for Americans. For families living in the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles, as well as neighboring areas of Kansas, Colorado, and New Mexico, the Great Depression was complicated by the Dust Bowl. In the spring of 1934, drought began. Farmers hoped and wished for rain, but day after day, they were faced with blazing sun and intense winds. Due to years of overplanting, overgrazing, and poor management of crop rotations, winds easily picked up and carried away the topsoil, swirling it into dust clouds called black blizzards. According to eyewitnesses, the storms were so thick that people were not even able to see 5 feet in front of them. The dust storms affected everything in sight. They ruined acres and acres of wheat and other crops and led to the death of cattle that ate the dust-filled grass. The dust piled up around houses and barns like snow, and it buried fences up to the top. Even though women hung wet blankets and oiled cloths over windows and doors, the dust poured in through every crack. Dinner plates were kept turned over until it was time to eat, and even then dust still covered dining tables and found its way into the food. To protect their eyes and lungs, people wore masks whenever they went outside or traveled to school. Even though people tried to protect themselves, over 500 people died from dust pneumonia, a respiratory illness caused by particles in the dust. After visiting the dust-filled area, a reporter from Kansas wrote, "If you would like to have your heart broken, just come out here. It is the saddest land I have ever seen." The Dust Bowl caused more than just physical destruction. Over 500,000 people were left homeless, and over 2.5 million people left their homes since they could no longer work their farms. People moved west to start fresh in states such as Arizona, Washington, Oregon, and California, and took jobs as migrant farm workers. Karen Hess's novel, Out of the Dust, is the story of Billie Joe, a 14-year-old girl growing up in the Oklahoma Panhandle during the time of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. Although her family is faced with drought and financial troubles, they have hope in a brighter future. Her father tries to grow as much as he can on their wheat farm, while her pregnant mother tends the house and waits for the arrival of the new baby. But the joy of Billie Joe's life is her music. As a child, her mother taught her how to play the piano, and ever since, she has poured her heart and soul into her music. Because of her talent, she is even asked to travel to neighboring towns and perform with her music teacher from school. But when a devastating accident strikes, everything Billie Joe has ever loved is taken from her. Will Billie Joe be able to find her strength during the storms of life? Or will the dust finally carry away the last of her hope? Read Out of the Dust to discover if Billie Joe will ever find the calm after the storm.